I've been trying to hop on for a second, but probably the greatest conversations that I ever have is with my big brother, Rob. And he called me on Saturday, and it just meant the world to me. I got on the phone, and he had asked me a couple questions, and we started chatting it up. And in doing that, it was incredible for me because anytime I get a chance to be able to talk with somebody who I absolutely love, I cherish, I admire, and I consider, my best friend in the world, it always means so much. And this conversation that we had about, because there's a couple of things in being a leader in a company or being an owner of a company, and especially when you're working with employees or anything like that, is we talked about this subject of protecting hope. And hope is something that what I found through my experiences in owning multiple businesses, we had salons throughout the country, and we had employees all over the place and from all different walks of life, is they all had one thing in common, is they all wanted to have hope. And when I injured that hope, it was very hard to repair. And so in building it, it took a long time. Destroying it took a second. And repairing it was as close to impossible. There's nothing impossible. Well, I mean, there are a few things, but very few things that are impossible. But restoring hope is probably one of the biggest challenges, and especially when you're dealing in a company. And so we talked about this protecting side is, first we've got to provide it. We've got to provide that hope, and that hope comes through a series of just saying that you're going to do something and then doing it. Say it, do it, say it, do it, say it, do it. People start to gain a little bit of hope. And once they gain hope in something, then the ultimate and the Holy Grail is to get them to a place of faith. And faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. But it starts with this hope. And the way that we build it, say it, do it, say it, do it, say it, do it, say it, do it. If you're a parent, you know this. If you're in a relationship, you know this. If you're a boss, you do this. If you're an employee, you do this. As a person, we foster, if we can foster hope and then we can protect it at all costs, it's amazing. And it was great because we had that conversation. And then I went in, I got a chance to go up and see Christian Hosoi up in the Sanctuary Church up in Orange County. And it was unbelievable. Sat in the front row, got a chance to meet him, got his phone number. He's going to be on the podcast, which is awesome. So, but while I was waiting, after I had this conversation with my brother, I go to Proverbs. I'm just sitting and I'm doing my study, corresponding proverb, corresponding day. It's Proverbs 15. And guess what it was all about? Protecting hope. See, God knew where I was going to be 3,000 years ago. He knew exactly where I was going to be, on that day, on last Saturday. And it's amazing because he delivered that message. And so make sure you stay with us until the end to be able to get every single aspect, of this roadmap of how you can protect hope in your personal, your professional, your spiritual, and your financial life. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
So people are constantly asking me, like, why did you start on Inchstones, or when we first started, it was called Unscripted, and doing these, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And I was thinking about it yesterday, and I was thinking, imagine what my kids are going to be able to have, later on in life. I wish that I had my dad sit down every day for 15 or 20 minutes and tell me why he was thinking the way that he was thinking, or what was in his heart, or what he was studying. I have his notes now, and I can read them and I can kind of guess, but I want to have this for my kids. I want to do this, to spend this time with you, whether you're on your walk or you're, on your way to work, a commute, or whatever it is. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you listening to the podcast, sharing it, commenting on it. These are the things that mean the absolute most. And so it was incredible because I've talked about these proverbs, and some people have been oh man, I don't read the Bible. I don't care if you read the Bible. What we're talking about is wisdom, and wisdom transcends everything: personal, professional, spiritual, and financial life, everywhere. If you want to be a good business person, you have wisdom. You want to be great in relationships, you have wisdom. You want to be great in friendships, wisdom. You want to be a great person, wisdom. And where can we get that wisdom? I go right to the source. And so in Proverbs 15, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day, it literally hit on every single thing that we can do as a business owner, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, to be able to protect hope in those who we are connected with and who we're in relationship with. And so in verse number 1, it talks about gentle answers. Gentle answers are probably one of the most important, and I fail at this a lot because I get going, I get emotional, and I answer based off emotion as opposed to thinking like, okay, let me have some prudence in this situation. Prudence just meaning thought of the future. How are these words going to impact long term as opposed to just right now? This is a massive one. So in verse 1 of Proverbs 15, it says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And so in verse 2 and 7, it talks about a wise tongue adorns knowledge. Does your tongue adorn knowledge? When you speak, are people better because of it? And if not, be conscious of the things that you're saying. And get this, the only things that you're saying anyway, or that coming out of your mouth, are things that you have heard, you've seen, or become aware of through your senses. They drop down into your heart filled up, and then the overflow of your heart is your mouth anyway. So your words are an overflow of your heart, and the only way that it gets into your heart is through your eyes and your ears and through your senses. So just be conscious of those things, the things that you're intaking. In verse 3, 9, 11, and 12, or 21, it talks about integrity. And in verse 3, I'll hit verse 3, the eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. Integrity, you're being the same in the dark as you are in the light. If you can do this, if you can give gentle answers, your tongue adorns knowledge. And think of like a wise tongue. What is a wise tongue? It has wisdom. And so where does wisdom come from? From the fear of God. How do we fear God? Just by respecting him. Spend time with him. When he says something, he does it. And what that does is it produces hope. And that hope ultimately ends up with faith. When you have hope enough times, it creates faith, which is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, right? And so this doesn't just have to be a spiritual side or, I'm just about the Bible no, it isn't about that part of it. Imagine this, protecting hope in your business. Because if you have employees, those employees have hope in a vision. But once that vision gets cracked, I could tell you this, you could get all the duct tape in the world, you could get all the glue in the world, but to put hope back together again will never be the same as if it was never cracked in the first place. And God gave us a blueprint 3,000 years ago on how to be able to protect this hope, foster it, and then protect it. In verse 4 and 26, it talks about soothing words. In verse 5, 10, 12, 24, 28, 31, and 32 simply talks about inviting discipline into your life. Ask for discipline before somebody disciplines you. I tell you, as a kid, I was a bonehead and I was just an angry kid and I didn't want anyone telling me what to do. I told my brother this the other day. My nephew, Cam, he knows he could perform. And so there's times where he said to his pop, almost questioning, wow, I need to practice. And I was that way. And, I related to that, where my brother was the flip side of it. My brother was like, I'm going to show you through my work to be able to do it. Now, I wasn't inviting discipline. I wanted to push discipline away as much as possible. But as I've gone, what I realize is when I ask for discipline, when I ask for correction, when I ask for counsel, it comes a lot easier than when I get smacked upside the head. And in this, inviting discipline and prudence, just thought of the future. And if you invite discipline, you have to have thought of the future, and that's prudence. And that word just keeps coming up over and over again and again in verse 5, 10, 12, 24, 28, 31, and 32. Invite invite discipline, and have prudence. In verse 6, it asked about what is your fruit. Like, you'll know a tree by its fruit. An apple tree cannot produce an orange. An orange tree cannot produce an apple. And most of us get mad at the fruit that's coming off the tree, but we don't take that much time in realizing what type of seeds we're planting. And if you plant an orange seed, you'll get an orange tree. You can't get mad at the tree for producing an orange. So let's not look at the result. Let's look at the seed. And so my pops would always ask me this all the time. He would say, son, if you look at that apple, how many seeds are in an apple? I'd be like, 8. He'd be like, but how many apples are in the seed? And it's an infinite amount. So focus on the seed and not the apple. Focus on the what you're planting as opposed to the spoils, the end result. And so if you plant all the time and you plant the right type, guess what will happen? The right things. So in protecting hope, just ask yourself, what is your fruit? In verse 8 and 29, it asks the question, are you praying? And I don't care who you pray to, but are you praying? Are you taking time? Are you taking time away as a leader and just sitting in and asking the questions, seeking counsel, seeking discipline? And are you praying? Because I could tell you this. Some people say, I don't know if prayer works, but I could tell you this, that every time that one of my friends gets into a challenge, they reach out and they ask for prayer, even if they don't believe, even if their faith isn't strong, anything like that. So I tell you, at some point, we're all going to be praying. At some point, we're going to have to surrender and give it up. So ask yourself, are you praying? If you're not praying, you're not protecting hope. And in verse 13 and 15, do you have a happy heart and a cheerful heart? Do you have a happy heart? Cheerful heart. In verse 13 to 15, it talks about this. And in verse 14, it talks about discernment. And discernment is to be able to take in the information, sit in it, and then ask yourself, is it right for you? That's what discernment is. And imagine if you had that discernment, if we practice that discernment. If you want to protect hope, you will practice discernment. In verse 16 to 17, and this is common in most Proverbs, but it talks about working your land. If you want to protect hope, this is what we did to build our company. And we started in Michigan, and then we went to Vegas, and then we did Chicago, and then we did Carlsbad and San Diego and Salt Lake and the Hard Rock Casino in Las Vegas. But what I found was when I stopped working my land, that's when I got in trouble. And working your land think of this. It's doing what you were purposed to do, doing the thing that you know that you are great at. And just sitting into that part. In-N-Out does not do bacon on their cheeseburgers, avocado, and they don't worry about the trends. What they do is they do burgers, fries, and shakes. And what they've done from the beginning is burgers, fries, and shakes. That's it. And so if we simply work our land in verse 16 to 17, it's amazing. I apologize about the choppy video too. Hopefully you guys can still hear my voice, but I love you anyway. And hopefully you'll be able to, you can listen in, but I'll be a little choppy. I don't know what's happening with our video. So in verse 18 and 25, it's, are you peaceful and are you patient? It's probably one of the biggest ones when I look at my brother. To protect hope, you got to be peaceful, you got to be patient. In verse 19, it talks about diligence. That's just right work. In verse number 20, do you display wisdom? What is wisdom? It's the right use of knowledge. And all these things have the tendency to be able to be a little bit slower burn. In verse 22, it asks, are you seeking counsel? In verse 23, it asks if you're speaking life. In verse 27, are you generous? And in verse 30, it talks about the eyes, the heart, and the body. It starts with the eyes, what you see. It drops down into your heart, and then it transfers to your body from that point into motion as far as what it is that you're doing. And in verse 33, it says clearly, humility will come before honor. So think about this, and we'll run these down. If you want to protect hope in any relationship that you have, you'll have gentle answers, a wise tongue. You'll have integrity, soothing words. You'll invite discipline. You'll ask yourself, what is your fruit? You'll ask yourself, are you praying? Is your heart happy? Do you have a cheerful heart? Are you practicing discernment? Are you working your land? Are you peaceful and patient? Are you diligent? Do you display wisdom? Do you seek counsel? Do you speak life? Are you generous? Where are your eyes? What is in your heart? And what is your body doing? Do you have humility? Because that will come before honor. You see, protecting hope is one of the most essential aspects of growing and sustaining any relationship. Hope is the precursor to faith, and this is where relationships can grow exponentially. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. God has given us a blueprint here in Proverbs 15, not only to give evidence for this hope, but to also protect it at all costs. When you have any organization, any relationship, any friendship, you constantly want to protect hope. And so my smile is big today because we've got the chance to do 3 episodes. If you're loving the episodes, you could go to the playlist, Wisdom and the Vibe. It's here on YouTube. We've also got it on Spotify, Apple. The greatest thing that you could ever do is, number 1, what you're doing right now, listening and watching the podcast. Number 2, comment on it and subscribe. And number 3, simply share it with a friend. I ask that, and I love every single one of you. And what I want to tell you as we go is we've got an incredible event, which is called the Vibe Room, July 23rd. In Salt Lake City. It's completely sold out, and I want to thank Sondor Realty Group, Patrick Packer, Goosehead Insurance, and Sage Mortgage Advisors, and they are alliance partners of the Vibe Room, and it has been amazing to be able to work with them. Again, if you're loving the content, continue to consume it. I love you. I thank you so much for allowing me in your ears or in your eyes, and I promise you I will continue to bring you wisdom from the source. So my name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we get